Andy, welcome to Souped Up Recipes. I have great news to share with you. My cookbook is finally ready for sale. You can click the link in the description and purchase this great cookbook. I've been working on it for the past 3 years, and I can proudly say that this book is going to be your ultimate guide to cooking authentic and delicious Chinese food. I carefully selected 168 recipes featuring popular takeout dishes, various regional specialties, easy family meals, and classic traditional delicacy. Each recipe comes with a demo video, step-by-step photos, clear instructions, and secret tips. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned chef, you'll be able to cook better than takeout and savor the local meals like a native Chinese. All right, let's start today's cooking. We're making the best Cantonese Char Siu pork recipe. I'm sure many of you have seen this perfectly roasted barbecue pork hanging by the window of Chinese restaurants, glistening with that beautiful reddish color. It's actually pretty easy to make at home. You just marinate the meat in the Char Siu sauce overnight and roast it the next day. I first tackled this recipe 5 years ago. Here is the old video. Since then, I have picked up a lot of insider tips and tricks, so this upgraded recipe guarantees the restaurant quality result. Let's start by making the Char Siu sauce, in which the sweetness is the main flavor. So you will need 5 tablespoons of sugar and 3 tablespoons of honey. Some people like to use all honey. You can do that if you want, but nothing is wrong with using partial sugar. I have made this recipe both ways many times, and I don't think it makes a big difference. All right, aside from the sweetness, Char Siu also has a complex, distinguished flavor, which comes from the fermented bean curd. Some of you may not be familiar with this ingredient, so let me talk about it a little bit more. When you shop in an Asian market, you may find many versions of fermented tofu. The Beijing style has a grayish-green color and a stinky smell. Most people cannot tolerate its flavor, so I don't recommend using it in this recipe. The Sichuan style is seasoned with chili flake and cured in oil. It is spicy, but can be used in this recipe. However, if you wish to keep the authenticity, I recommend using the Cantonese nanru, which has an iconic red color. If you don't have an Asian market around, you can purchase it online. I'll link it in the description. If you don't have access to buy fermented tofu at all, you can use 1 tablespoon of Japanese miso paste. Although the flavor may be different, considering miso is also a fermented soy product, it will level up the flavor of your roasted pork. Continue by adding 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, half teaspoon of salt, half teaspoon of 5-spice powder, 1 tablespoon of grated garlic, and 1 tablespoon of red yeast powder. Although the nanru contains red yeast powder already, but it is not red enough. You have to add extra to give the Char Siu a vibrant red color. Just so you know, red yeast powder doesn't have any flavor, so it does not affect the taste at all. You can replace it with 12 drops of red food coloring, or skip it if you don't care about the presentation. Alright, that is all the ingredients for the seasoning. No need to add oyster sauce or hoisin sauce, which many people do, and I did that in my previous video as well. But after 5 years of testing and improving, I realized that sometimes less is better. If you add too much other flavors, the Char Siu may still taste delicious, but you won't get that signature sweet and savory taste like it is from the street of Hong Kong. Before we move on to the meat, put the sauce on the stove and stir over medium-low heat for a few minutes to reduce the liquid. This is my secret, and it makes a big difference in taste. Why? When you marinate meat overnight, the seasoning will draw out the moisture from the pork, which dilutes the flavor. To avoid that, reducing the sauce is necessary. The sauce will bubble a lot in a minute or two, and the texture becomes like syrup, which means the sugar and the honey are caramelizing. That adds another layer of flavor to the pork. Next, thicken the sauce with some tapioca starch water. You could do cornstarch, but tapioca is much stickier. This will help the seasoning to wrap around and cling onto the meat, so the end result becomes flavorful. This is the texture that we're looking for. Just let it cool on the side. The sauce will continue to thicken as it cools down. I'll show you later. Now, let's prepare the meat. Although different cuts of pork can be used for making char siu, such as pork loin and pork belly, I think pork butt and pork shoulder are the best because they have the perfect fat content. I am using boneless pork shoulder. Cut it into 1.5 inch thick slabs. I like to make a cut in the middle of the slab, but don't cut it off completely. That is how the restaurants get those extra long char siu strips hanging by the window. Grab a fork to poke a lot of holes. This helps the marinade infuses into the meat evenly. Drizzle 3 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine and rub it all over the meat. Cantonese restaurants will use a special cooking wine that is infused with a rose fragrance, which pairs really well with the honey flavor. However, I couldn't find it anywhere around where I live, so I'm using regular cooking wine. You can also use dry sherry. Once done, use paper towels to absorb the excess moisture on the surface, so it doesn't dilute the sauce. By now, the char siu sauce should be cooled. However, due to the filming and changing angles, the sauce has been sitting for way longer than usual and the texture becomes too thick. Normally, I would just let this sit for like 30 minutes and it will not be this thick. Oh well, it does not affect the taste, but it will take a lot more time to mix evenly because it's so sticky. That looks good. Cover it and leave this in the fridge overnight. Then, optionally, you can come back in the middle to give it a mix. The next day, preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The direct translation of char siu is fork roast, which refers to the traditional method of cooking this dish by skewering the seasoned pork, then roast it over open flames. Therefore, you can also use a grill to make char siu. However, I think oven is more convenient. Oh, by the way, make sure to put the meat on a baking rack, which allows better air circulation. Stick this into the oven and roast for 20 minutes. There will be extra sauce left in the bowl. Don't throw it away. Take the char siu out of the oven and brush the sauce on the surface. Flip and brush the other side. Stick it back into the oven and bake for another 20 minutes. Take it out again. This time, we will brush a thin layer of honey, which gives the char siu a shiny and tempting appearance. I used about 2.5 tablespoons of honey. Make sure you flip the pork as well for even cooking. Put it back into the oven and continue to cook for 5 to 10 more minutes. Every oven is different. You just have to watch it until the meat is beautifully charred. Char siu is the kind of dish that will bring happiness and satisfaction, especially at the moment when you take it out of the oven. The meat is just glistening with deliciousness and filling your home with mouth-watering aroma. Before serving, I always like to snack in a piece. Or two, or who knows however many pieces, because I can never eat enough char siu. The flavor is authentic, like what you can get from a real siu shop. I haven't had that catering experience since I moved to the USA. I miss it so much. Alright, char siu is typically served with a mound of white rice and some blanched choisun on the side. That right there is the most popular takeout dish in Cantonese cuisine. Besides that, we also like to use char siu to make steamed bun fillings, char siu fried rice, egg foo young, char siu noodle soup, and Cantonese steamed rice noodle roll. I hope you give this a try soon. As always, the printable recipe is right here. You can check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more delicious and authentic Chinese food. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!